Okay, so we're recording and streaming now, so hopefully you get this on your screens now. This is the presentation we'll go through to talk about the utility budgets. This is a water and sewer capital improvement fund. That's the income tax fund. And then we'll also go through the revenue and capital reserve funds for electric, water, and sewer as well. If you have any questions during this, please feel free to speak up and ask as we're going through each topic individually. But first one we'll talk about is the 4017 fund. Again, this is the income tax fund. Compared to our 2024 budget, the estimate for 25 is about 9.5% over that number. We are looking to get utilize some state grant funding for a project at the water treatment plant. Most of our large capital projects, as usual, we're looking to use EPA and OWDA loans. That's pretty typical from what we do from past years. The debt service payments are also for past projects are also in this fund. Here's some fund balances we're looking at. At the beginning of 25, it's about 2.8 million. Revenues about 54 million and expenses at 55 million, with the estimated year-end balance at 2.1. Most of that revenue is again loan dollars from the EPA and OWDA. These are revenue inputs for the 4017 fund. Again, the state aid, that's the Department of Development grant for 1.1 million for the water plant project. 46 million in loans for the water and sewer side. Income tax revenue at 6.7 million. And then 300,000 is the advance from capital. That is the loan payback from the city to this 4017 fund for the city building and the roundabout project. There was a $3 million loan was provided, and then the plan was to pay it back over 10 years. So some of the expenses we have in the fund, the $250,000, that is for looking to acquire some property for pump stations. There's one on South Main Street and one on West Poe that we would like to acquire property for. And those are going to have to be replaced at some point in the future. No plan in the budget to replace those now, but if the opportunity is available to acquire some property or easements, we'd like to try to do that. The buildings and infrastructure, we'll go through some of those a little more detail later. And then the bond and loans, that's the principal and interest payments for past projects. This is our debt schedule. Again, most of these are ongoing debts we've seen in past years. The village water line replacement project, that was not there last year. That project is just getting wrapped up, and so we'll anticipate seeing that first loan payment in 2025. The same for the South Main Street water line project. That's getting wrapped up as well at this winter. Also, in the parentheses is the final payment year when those debts will be expired or paid off. Another page of the same types of projects. Again, similar debt payments from previous years as well. This slide is our 25 budget capital projects requests. So water distribution projects at 4.5 million and wastewater collection projects at 8.28 million. That does include the work at Nims Road that's related to the Abbott project. Other work at the water plant, again, looking to get out for bid yet this year. There's a low service pump station. Hopefully it's under contract this year. Expansion of the membrane plant, the microfiltration and the RO trains at 11 million. And then some clarifier improvements at 2.1 million. The big one at the wastewater plant it's designed already and ready for bid at 13 million. That's the final clarifier and the primary clarifier project. We're holding off to bid that until we get more information back from the EPA. We're trying to get a 0% interest loan for that. So we didn't bid it this year, thinking that if we get the loan in next year's plan in their plan process that we can maybe save some interest costs on that. Not guarantee we're going to get a 0% loan on that, but we're trying. Other projects in there, you've seen maybe some from past years. Again, odor control, that one is pretty much ready to bid. It's almost complete with design, just some more details to work out. We'll probably get that out early next year. The two screen projects, the Pomercer screens and the septic screens, those are newer projects. Haven't done any engineering work or design work on that yet. Same with the sludge storage building at the waste plant. And there is a more detailed breakdown in the budget document that we submitted to you or sent to you by email. This is a summary of those projects, but there is a more detailed breakdown that's on page 16 of your budget document. So if you have questions about that, we can go over those too. But overall, the fund does seem stable for 2025. We also have a 5-year capital plan in there that projects adequate revenues and expenses for those 5 years, and the fund being able to meet those needs. Current interest rates are around 3%, maybe a little bit under 3% from the EPA, I believe. Last time I looked at their website. Right now, the annual debt service payments are around 39% of the annual income tax revenue. But that, as you can see, we've got some pretty large projects coming up and large loan amounts coming up. And so that could go up to 80% in 5 years if that plan does come true. We do have some capital requests in the capital reserve funds, but we'll cover those here in a little bit. Again, we're seeing pretty good increases in income tax revenues, and we hope that will continue as Katy is successful to marketing new projects coming to town and also Abbott in the future. Is there any questions about the Water and Sewer Capital Improvement Fund? Again, this is an income tax fund. All right. Next, we'll go over the utility revenue and capital reserve funds. In general, there are salary adjustments in here based on the union contracts. We did finish those up last year. So we've got, those are 3-year contracts. We are seeing increases in medical insurance premiums. I will say for next year, there was other options offered for the staff to possibly lower premium costs for both the city and the employee. So that was a new thing that employees got to pick an alternative to some medical options. We're looking to add positions in engineering, GIS, water and sewer. I think I left off here electric and utility business office as well. Looking to get a assistant UBO manager for Jackie to have some help in her office. And really just 1 or 2 positions in the other fields or other departments or divisions. And again, as typical in past budgets, as you've seen, we're looking to utilize fund balances for capital projects. So first we'll start with electric. And some budget assumptions here. Right now we're planning no rate adjustments in 2025. It looks like our current rates will cover expenses we have projected for in the 25 budget. The last rate adjustment we had was in July of 2021. So customers will have some continued rates going through next year is our plan. That we will plan to collect about 1.4 million total. A little over that maybe it's for the kilowatt hour tax. The money that's collected from inside customers goes to the general fund. That's about 1.3 million. And then outside customers, that kilowatt hour tax goes back to the state of Ohio. That's about 128,000. The refuse and recycling charges are collected through utilities bills as well. That money is refunded back or sent back to the general fund, a little over $1 million. Looking to transfer $2 million from the revenue fund to the capital reserve fund. That's basically what our depreciation requirement is to transfer every year. It's about 1.5 million roughly, but we've used $2 million in this budget. Again, we are seeing higher labor costs due to the union contract that was negotiated, and power supply costs are going up a little bit, and we'll talk more about power supply as the presentation goes on. We are anticipating some higher sales, electric sales due to load growth. And we'll continue to see that in the future as Abbott comes online. And again, Kate has been pretty successful at marketing new businesses to Bowling Green and seeing some pretty positive things from business growth, as well as the housing increases that we're seeing in town. This slide looks at our annual kilowatt-hour sales projections and also shows you where we've been in the past couple of years. So we are seeing some increases planned for 2025. 2020 was a low year. That was COVID, so we did see some reductions in sales that year. Kind of rebounded a little bit back in 21 and 22. 24 was a little bit higher than those 2 years, but for 25 we're looking at a little bit more, 518 million kilowatt hours for our sales projections. So for purchase power, we use some estimates from Sawville & Associates. They help us with our power supply projections. We get some from AMP as well, but we tend to use the Sawville & Associates projections for our budget needs. The 2024 PCA is estimated or projected to be overcollected by $2.2 million, and this will be reimbursed to customers in 2025. This is the same power supply recovery that we bring to the board every February. We give you an update on where we are with our over-collection or under-collection. There's a slide on this a little bit later, but so the board will look at it in February, approve this over-collection to be redistributed back to customers in March for the rest of March through December of 25. This shows you where our PCA over and under collection have been for the past couple of years. Again, 2020 was a pretty high number because of the reduced sales from COVID. Started to see that number go closer to zero, and we got into an over collection state in 23, and in 24 we're estimated to be again 2.2 million over collected. In 25 our estimate is to be about 1.9 million over collected. But then you can see in 26 and 27 that's expected to be in an under-collected state by several million dollars and increasing as the years go on. That is mainly due to the increasing capacity charges that we are seeing from PJM, as well as some increases in the transmission charges that we have to pay. Those are costs that are really out of our control, and that all of the load in the PJM territory is seeing these increasing costs, not just the city. So overall, on the power supply side or the energy side, costs from our projects seem to be pretty stable, seem to be pretty consistent from year to year. Where we're seeing the increases is on the capacity and transmission side. We will need to address this issue in 25 with our next cost of service study. So we do anticipate we're going to see some rate increases. I think we're looking at around maybe 10% over maybe a 4 to 5 year period of time. The good news is, from what we can see from our projections, it's a somewhat gradual increase. So I think as we've done in past years, if rates take that same approach to increasing gradually, it will be less impact to customers, but we will need to address it with our rates structure in the next year or two. This again kind of shows you what those capacity and transmission charges are. This does include credits that we receive. So when we're in projects like Prairie State and Hydro and the solar project, they do reduce our expenses. And so those credits that we get back for being an owner or member of those projects are included in these numbers. But you can see in 25 and 26, those are increasing by several million dollars each year. The 25 credit that we've estimated is at $10 million. So if we didn't have those projects, you could add 10 million roughly to that 6 million for a total of $16 million in our power supply costs just from these two charges. Again, we're expecting the rules that PJM has implemented with their auction pricing for the capacity charges basically is what's driving the cost increase for capacity. Our current rate schedule is projected to be adequate, though, for 2025. Again, we're looking to be at an over-collected state with the PCA. Covered capacity and transmission, talk about rate study and cost of service study in 25. The battery and diesel generator, they did reduce our capacity and transmission charges by about $670,000. We're estimating that's going to decrease it by that amount. Sorry. So the electric revenue fund, these are some of the numbers. Fund balance at the beginning of the year is about 11.4 million. Revenues and expenses at 66 and 68 million, and then estimated balance at the end of the year at 9.4 million. Our receipts or revenue for this fund, again, most of it's coming from electric sales. That's looking to increase a little bit from 61 to 63 million. Again, no rate increase, but increasing sales from demand and energy from customers. Taxes, that's the kilowatt hour tax. The refuse and recycling charge, again, that gets transferred back to the general fund. And the others are relatively small amounts for this fund. Our expenses, again, salaries and fringes are going up based off of the union contract that was agreed to. Contractual services is really about staying about the same. Your purchase power, you're seeing an extra $2 million in there. Again, that's due to some capacity prices that we're going to start to experience. Those won't take effect until, I believe it's 1st of June is when those will come into play. So we'll only see about a half of a year of increase from the latest capacity auction. The other funds there look to be about the same. Again, transferring $2 million to capital reserve, same as we did last year. So this is the capital reserve fund. The fund balance at the beginning of the year, 10.7 million, transferred $2 million into the fund, expenses at 10.8, with the estimated fund balance of 1.8 million at the end of the year. Some projects that we're looking to do out of this fund, substation improvements, the NIMS Road distribution improvements. This is again for the Abbott project. The Northern Circuit distribution improvements, that's one that's under design right now. It's probably about 80–90% complete. This would extend another circuit up to State Route 582, and it would provide a looped feed for customers that we have up there. We have one of our largest customers is Principal Business Enterprises up off of, was it Devil's Hole Road, is that right? So they have a radial feed right now, and so whenever we lose that circuit, they drop out of, they drop power every time we have an issue with that line. So we have had issues with trucks hitting poles. It takes them out for several hours. So having a looped feed would give them some additional reliability as well as other customers that are up there. The other projects here are typical. We've had in previous years, other upgrades and improvements we're going to do within the system. There's just some vehicles and replacements. The IT disaster recovery, that is a fund that's being split between the city and the utility budgets. For utilities, it's being split between electric, water, and sewer, so you'll see that the same thing at a smaller budget amount in the water and sewer fund. The same with the DCU metering point. That is a data collection unit, and we're looking to put another collection point on the district's water tower. They're going to build up at 25 and 582 as a result of their data center project that's going to be built up there. They started the construction on the road if you've been up that way. So they're going to put up a new water tower, and that will be an ideal point for us to put up another meter reading point for our system. You'll see that same line at a smaller budget amount in the water and sewer funds. In summary, so our cash reserves looking to be reduced by 10.8 million due to one-time capital projects. Maintain our current electric rates, also maintain the PCA charge at zero. Again, we covered capacity and transmission charges, and again, the need for a rate study in 2025. This is a chart showing our past cash reserves and 6-month reserve numbers. So you can see we're still above the red line is above the purple line, so we still are showing adequate cash balance in the fund. And that's it for electric. Any questions about electric? If not, we'll move to water. So some budget assumptions here. We don't have any plans for a rate increase at this time, but we are recommending in this budget and recommending to the board that they consider a 7% rate increase in water starting in April of 2025. The last rate increase was April of 2023. So again, we had nothing up until that point. But this budget and revenue does anticipate or plan for a 7% increase in April of 25. Revenue is based on sales projections and the rate increase, as I said. Transferring a little over $2 million from the Water Revenue Fund to the Capital Reserve Fund. And again, utilizing fund balances for capital projects. These are fund balances at the beginning and ending of the year. So $8.2 million in revenues, $10.2 million in expenses, with a balance of $1.1 million at the end of the year. Revenue into the fund here is again largely increasing from sales, assuming the 7% rate increase. The others are pretty consistent from last year. Expenses, again, as with electric, salaries and fringes have gone up. Contractual services went up a little bit. Same for supplies and materials. We are seeing increased costs for supplies and materials across the board. We've tried to cut back where we can to reduce the budget requests as much as possible. Again, transferring to capital reserve funds of $2 million, that's up from $1.1 million from last year, mostly due to a metering change-out project that we'll talk about. This is the fund balances in the capital reserve fund for water, starting at $5.2 million. $2 million transfer into the fund, expenses at $5 million, with a fund balance of $2.1 million at the end of 25. Some of our projects we have planned for the capital reserve fund for water. Again, the meter replacement project at $2 million. This would be, we're looking to hire a contractor to come in and start replacing water meters that have reached a certain age and volume that they have recorded. We're seeing a large number of water meters fail, and we have other money on the next page. We'll talk a little bit about of money we're going to set aside would like to set aside to replace the meters that are failing. But this $2 million is a way to get ahead of the problem that we're seeing right now with our old meters and meter heads that are failing. And whenever you reach a certain age and usage of a water meter, it is recommended to replace them because they start to record less water usage, and so that means less revenue to the fund. And again, the meters don't last forever, so they're due to be replaced. And this is the start of this process. I would anticipate this is going to be a multi-year project, so this won't be the last time that we have a large request for water meter changeouts. I think we were trying to put this closer to 2.5 or 2.7 million, but the budget numbers just couldn't quite sustain it, so we dropped it down to 2 million. The other projects at the water plant, a couple $100,000 each, but the microfiltration replacement and the RO replacement, those are annual set-asides that we do each year. There's no spending planned for those dollars. The reservoir engineering study, you saw that last time. We did try to get RFQs out for that. We were not successful in getting a firm hired So we're going to look to go back out again early next year to try to get an engineer on board to get that study done. This is, again, that's another page of projects. The inventory line at 955, we've got planned for $750,000 roughly in meter changeouts again for this. This would be for our own staff to replace meters. And this would be used for if meters go dead or they die or they, there's an issue where it's not recording properly, it fails, needs to be replaced. Our staff would use this money for those meters. Other building improvements, those are things like masonry improvements at the water plant and a couple other buildings we've got. The site improvements is some asphalt repairs, asphalt work for water and sewer and electric. Again, some vehicles, and again, I mentioned the IT disaster recovery money and the DCU metering point before. So as a summary for the water revenue and capital reserve funds, again, a decrease in cash reserve by about $5 million. In general, most of the categories are seeing increased costs in this fund. Revenue is about equal to operating expenses, but it's not enough to cover the capital requests that we've got. Again, we are recommending a rate increase and a cost of service study as soon as we get electric wrapped up. This is, again, our fund balance slide for the past 10, 11 years, showing a decrease in the fund. I would say from 23 and beyond, that is actual numbers. 24 is our projection where we're going to be for this year. And then 25 is based off of the budget. The minimum reserve is 3 months. I prefer 6 months, but we're showing that we're below the 6-month reserve, but that's because of the projects we've got listed and the needs for replacements and upgrades. Any questions about water? All right, next we'll go to the sewer revenue and capital reserve fund. So again, recommending another 7% sewer increase for rates in sewer. Starting in January of 25, water was in April, sewer is typically in January. We try to do those offset from each other to allow staff time to input the rates, but also to allow customers to adjust to one utility being adjusted at a time. Typically electric we do in July. But again, recommending a 7% increase starting in January 23. So we'll be talking to the board at the next meeting pretty quickly about what that rate increase looks like, what the rate schedule might look like for 2025. So I would expect you'll see that here yet this year. Again, same with water. Revenue is based on the previous sales numbers and the rate increase. Looking to transfer $500,000 from the sewer fund to the capital reserve fund. That's a relatively small number compared to previous years. Again, trying to maintain fund balance in the revenue fund. Same thing with capital projects, using one-time projects or using fund balance for one-time projects. These are our fund balances at the beginning of the ending of the year for the sewer revenue fund. $2.5 million at the beginning, $6.5 million in revenue, $7.5 in expenses, and $1.5 at the end of the year. Revenue into the fund, a little more detail here. So again, sales going up to $5.5 million if the board approves the 7% increase, that is. The others are typical to what they were last year. On the expense side, again, salaries and fringes are going up as they were in the water and the electric funds. We did reduce supplies and materials a little bit, again, trying to cut costs where we could. And the transfer to capital, again, that's again trying to maintain the fund balance in the revenue fund as much as possible. This is the capital reserve fund. So because the transfer to this fund is less than the expenses, again, not uncommon from what we did previously, but relatively small compared to the other transfers. That's why you're seeing the fund balance at the end of the year being in the $300,000 range. Some projects we have planned or would like to do in '25. The biggest one is a sludge thickening equipment at the waste plant. This would help us with the solids processing to improve dewatering of that material. Some pump station drive replacements at the Poe-Mercer pump station, and then looking to do some work on Hillcrests for some sewer lateral replacements like we did in the village previously. Again, similar projects, similar building and site improvement projects as we mentioned before. Some equipment that we're looking to replace with the fund, as well as the IT disaster recovery and the DCU metering point. There's some money here for that. Again, cash reserves being decreased by $1.5 million. The rates are not keeping up with expenses. That's the need for the increase in rates. We have really limited ability to use this fund for capital projects, as we've had in previous years. It seems to be back again. Again, recommending another rate study and cost of service study. This is our chart as you've seen before for sewer. You can see where our projected cash balance at the end of 2025 is just barely at the 3-month reserve, but I think we're above it by about $2,000. So we just cleared the threshold. And that's it for sewers. Any questions about sewer? This last fund is really just a placeholder for underground storage tank guarantee fund. There's really no activity in this. This is maintained per ordinance 3517 as it's required to be. This is related to the Wood County Airport. Years ago they had to put it someplace, so they put it here. So that's all I have really for you, unless you have more questions, but just appreciate everybody's time, and this is all the people that worked on the budget. Appreciate the board and council's attention to the presentation today. I know we've sent out the draft of the budget on Saturday. It still had some quirkiness to it when it comes to the formatting, and some issues that were there for what was presented. We don't have a final budget draft for you yet. We're hoping to have that here in the next day or two. As soon as we have that available, we will email that revised, updated document. I would say all of the information really though is in the document that you were sent, even though it may not look quite how we would like to see it. It is all there. So again, once we get a final version from our software vendors helping us work on some formatting issues, we'll get that emailed out to everybody. So that is all I have, unless you have questions.
Brian, in those last two funds, we're nearing that 3-month threshold that we're looking at.
Yeah.
What are some ways that we can raise revenues in those two funds specifically, obviously with some of those larger projects coming up over the next few years?
Yeah, so that is really what the cost of service study would ideally identify. And, we've tried to be pretty conservative, understanding, the economic issues have been going on within the city and the country in general for the past couple of years, and having more modest increases or none at all. Last year we foregone a rate increase in water and sewer. But it does continue to show that the capital projects in the 4017 fund and in general, those costs are going up. Mm-hmm. We're not seeing those costs stabilizing or coming back to where they were in previous years. So the 4017 fund is only able really to take so much of that, and we're seeing our longer term capital plan out beyond 5 years. If we're actually going to build a reservoir or expand the reservoir at the water plant, for example, that's going to be much larger than anything we really probably have seen with even the current budget we're showing. I don't have a really good number to tell you what that would be just yet, but I know it's going to be bigger than what we're used to. And I think there's going to be a need for making sure that our rates And those cost of service studies include adequate amounts of money for capital projects going forward. We've tried to include small amounts, I would say, in past rate studies, but I'm talking about, almost like a debt service payment, like $200,000, $300,000 a year that we would try to collect through rates. And they're just not really there in a substantial enough format that we can use those funds or recover those for those capital projects to be funded through those rates just yet. Those are hard decisions to make, and it's likely going to be a multi-year rate schedule that would see some kind of increases going forward. I would anticipate, but really it's going to be driven through rates, and that's where it probably needs to be a more serious effort on our part to put those in our projected expenses, because really the consultant that we hire is using information that we're giving them based off of past budgets, past history, past spending, and where we see the need for additional spending, such as capital projects. And again, we've tried to keep that relatively small to reduce the expenses or reduce the increases we've seen in past years. But at some point that needs to change. That's why we're showing. We said 7% was probably going to be our request of the board for water and sewer coming up here. Initially, we were looking at trying to keep it around 5%, which we've tried to keep, past rate increases or maybe 5 or 6%. So we even felt like 7% maybe was a stretch beyond what we've typically done. So we don't take that lightly, but the expenses are there to justify it, I believe.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think too, sorry, I think, the 2025 budget doesn't really show the sales projection quite yet, but, we increased the water contract to the district. So once the data center on 25 gets up and operational, we'll sell more water. Once they build the sewer line up Dunbridge to the plant, we'll collect more. So sales is another way that we can increase fund as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, Jim. Okay. Well, there's no other questions. That's all I've got. So I would anticipate, just to wrap up, I guess, at the next board meeting, we'll be asking for the board to approve the budget that would then go to City Council for their review and approval. If you have any questions between now and the next board meeting in November, please feel free to reach out to myself, Jim, Jackie. Be happy to answer any questions you might have. If you want to come in and meet and discuss it in more detail, again, I'd be happy to set up a time with you to do that. Whatever you think you would need to make your decision, I guess, next meeting. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.